My name's Chelsea and I am a brand designer, and today I'm going to be breaking down the full story about how I became a designer and all the little funny things along the way. It's been a really long time since I've been on YouTube, so hi, I'm so happy to be here. To be honest, I ended up looking at some of my past videos and I realized how happy I was in them. And to be honest with you, I haven't been happy for the past couple of years. I've been going through a lot with my mental health and it's been hard on me and the business and everything, but over the past 6 months, I've been doing so much work and I'm feeling so much better, and I'm recognizing myself as the girl who made those YouTube videos, and it just inspired me to get back on here and anyway. So I actually started my branding business when I was living abroad in Southeast Asia, but I feel like I just want to give you all of the context in this video, so we'll start at the very beginning. I was just graduating from university and I did not know what I wanted to do after school. I have a degree, I have a double major in environmental studies and sociology. But before I started the job search, I decided that I wanted to take a month and go to Bali, go to Southeast Asia and go backpacking by myself. And at the time, I was also serving in a restaurant. I served all the way through university, so I had a little bit of money. I had some extra student loan left over, and I decided to take a 3-week trip to Bali. Needless to say, I fell in love with Bali. It has always felt like home to me, and it always will feel like home to me. And because I had such a deep sense in my gut of oh my gosh, I feel like I belong here, or I need to be here at this point in my life, if that makes sense, I was just kind of fuck it. And what I did was I came back to Canada and I continued to work my serving and bartending job for another 6 months. And over the course of those 6 months, I just slowly started selling all of my possessions, all my furniture, most of my clothes, all my little trinkets, and I gave away all my dishes and whatnot. And I just kind of threw caution to the wind. Actually, I didn't throw caution to the wind because I assumed that I would run out of money. I had it in my head that I wanted to be an online business owner, but to be honest, at the time, I didn't even really know in what capacity. I just knew that I wanted to have this lifestyle that I saw other people having in Indonesia, being the digital nomad. But I was also being realistic, and I was I'm gonna run out of money, as I tried to start this business. So I got a working holiday visa for Australia. So after 6 months of working hard and saving up and selling all of the things, I packed what I had left into a suitcase and I hopped on that one-way flight over to Bali. It's so funny because it feels so long ago now that I'm reliving it in my head as I'm telling this, and it's making me a little bit emotional. So I flew to Bali, and for a little bit more context about how I was planning to get into the world of entrepreneurship, I had a really odd situation happen, I guess, but I was so freaking driven to become a digital nomad, to the point that I was obsessed with all these podcasts that would talk about how to become a digital nomad, including Johnny FD, who I actually met and became friends with in Thailand, which is a whole other story. So I was okay, I need to get my foot in the door into this online business space. So what I ended up doing was I think I posted in a bunch of Facebook groups. I think I asked if anybody anywhere offered online internships for online job positions to gain experience, because I was I don't need to be paid, I just want to dip my toe. This girl reached out to me, and she was a pretty big influencer at the time, and she asked me if I would help her run this social media account that she was looking to grow. And I was sure, I'm excited, I'm happy to learn all the things and soak up everything like a sponge. And I don't even remember what the account was about, but her whole thing was fashion, outfits and whatnot. So in my work for her, I don't even remember exactly what I was doing aside from graphic design, because that's what I really gravitated towards and what really stuck with me. So in making a whole bunch of social media graphics for her in this business, I realized that I loved Canva and that I like kind of had an eye for it. Like it felt like it was coming really, really naturally to me. So catch back up to present day, I flew to Bali, having already had this internship in place. Like it was a free internship, mind you, but an internship nonetheless. So I fly to Bali and I am traveling around, traveling very, very slow, just meeting friends along the way. And I had some old friends from when I had been there the previous November, and we're ahead in April now. And I was always just kind of like on the alert for people that I could learn from and things that I could learn. So in Bali, and particularly where I was staying at the time in Canggu, there are quite a few co-working spaces. And there were these two girls, and I had seen a lot of their ads before. You've probably heard of them. They're the Bucket List Bombshells. Anyway, they started this company teaching other girls how to create online businesses, which was at the time really revolutionary. This is in 2017 where, we kind of knew what a VA was, but it wasn't really a big deal. So these girls had started a really successful graphic design company fresh out of school, and they were like, we have to teach the girlies. So anyway, they were giving, or one of the girls was giving a talk at the local co-working space. So I signed up and I went, and she was so genuine and so wonderful, and she just seemed so cool that I was like, I'm gonna buy their course. And I think it was like $500 at the time, which was a lot of money for me at the time. If you remember, like, I'm coming there with a limited budget of like leftover student loans and what I could make in serving, and I wanted to have it last as long as possible. So anyway, I bought the course, and that is how I got my foundations down in terms of like learning branding, or like learning design programs and creating brand designs for clients. So as soon as I finished their course, which at the time that I finished their course, I had moved to Chiang Mai in Thailand. And the reason I moved is because staying in like touristy Bali, especially if you're not renting for the long term, can be a little bit more on the expensive side. Of course, it's much cheaper than being here in Canada, but still. And Thailand was quite a bit cheaper. So I went to Chiang Mai, and to be honest, Chiang Mai I think is my favorite city in the world, maybe next to Victoria, where I live in Canada. Oh my gosh, I love Chiang Mai. But anyway, in Chiang Mai is where I finished the course because I was taking it as I was traveling through Bali, and then I went to Chiang Mai. I finished the course, and that's when I just started to build my portfolio. I just went absolutely crazy. At the time, there were quite a few like websites that would list like ideas for mock projects, or you could like submit work for, like those design competition things that are really unethical, but it was a really good way to practice my skills. And what I did was I started an Instagram pretty much immediately. I didn't realize I was doing this at the time, but I was kind of taking my audience along for the whole journey, right from when I was just a little baby designer. And then, if they were there in the beginning, they could kind of watch my evolution, which I think is kind of cool. So I started this Instagram, and I told my friends about it on Instagram. So my friends started following me. And the first client that I got was actually a friend of mine that I had met in Bali. I created this like little logo that he wanted to print onto his motorcycle. So that was my first paid job. From there, I kept honing the design skills. I would look for courses, on like Coursera, and I started approaching clients. And I started approaching clients early, and I think that that's one key takeaway for this video. Approach clients early. You don't have to charge the moon and stars if you're just starting out. But being able to practice with real life clients, I think, is really powerful and was really helpful to me. So at the time, what I was doing was I would, I guess what we call now, like engage on Instagram. It's funny that it's like a big strategy now, and I was just doing it at the time to try to get clients. I sent hundreds and hundreds of cold emails. I got really lucky, and I made actually several friends in Chiang Mai, but a couple of friends who were in my same boat in terms of like being relatively new, like baby entrepreneurs. I'm so grateful for them. Like to this day, they had such a huge impact on me and my business. They really pushed me in a good way. They pushed me to get my work out there, to get my website up, to invite all my Facebook friends to my Facebook page that I created, which literally I thought I was gonna poop my pants because like, I feel really valid in this now because I've worked with so many other designers who feel the exact same way, that there's something about, you know, the moment that you tell people that you're doing something, because that makes it real, and then they have the opportunity to watch you fail, I think is like how I kind of thought about it. But at the end of the day, people don't care about you in the nicest way possible. People aren't analyzing what you're doing and assuming how your business is going. Getting excited about your business and sharing it with your people is only going to bring good things, because those people can make referrals for you and they can hype you up and they can like your posts and save your posts. So I honestly kept at it. I worked my booty off in Chiang Mai. I would wake up at 8 a.m. and then I would go to the co-working space by 9. And most days I would stay at the co-working space, which is in this big, beautiful mall, until 9 p.m. Genuinely, most days. But the thing is, I was so obsessed with what I was doing, which now I realize all these years later that I have ADHD. So when I'm really into something, I hyper focus on it. After 6 months in Chiang Mai, I wasn't tired of it, but something about like living in Southeast Asia is you always have to be mindful about your visa. So you kind of, as soon as you land somewhere, you've got a clock on you. And often if you're somebody who's living there for the long term, you'll need to like do visa runs out of the country and stuff. So me and my friends had kind of gotten to that point, a couple of my friends, and I decided to head to Vietnam in Ho Chi Minh City with one of my friends, and then another of my friends decided to follow. So I ended up staying in Ho Chi Minh City for I think like 3 or 4 months, and it was such a cool place to live. And it is a lot when you first get there, and it can be overwhelming. It's a busy city, it's very busy, but there's something really magical about it when you live there. I felt like I got to advance so much in my career, again, just because of the people that I was surrounding myself with every day, who were also building businesses. It just fostered so much, I guess, motivation inside of me. I had been working with clients actually like surprisingly consistently up until that point when I'm in Vietnam, and I'm still getting clients consistently. And I think that that's when I had signed like my biggest client to date that was like actually somebody that I was so jazzed about working with. And then I signed my first ever website project, because I actually didn't even offer websites at the time, but a past branding client of mine said like, hey Chelsea, I really like your website. Do you think that you could do one for me? So that's how web design started for me. You know, many courses and whatnot later. Ho Chi Minh City was very busy and I couldn't take it for as long as I could other places. So I ended up actually moving back to Bali, and that time it was for the longer term. I ended up staying there for a couple years after that. Bali, to be honest, I think was the ideal place to have a business. Like there's something about the lifestyle of being able to get on your motorbike in the morning, head to your co-working space, grab some lunch for like some local lunch for like $2, go back to your co-working space, and then when it hits 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock, you get back on your motorbike, pick up the dogs, unless the dogs were already with you at work, because you can take the dogs pretty much everywhere there, and then you head to the beach to watch the sunset with a beer, and then you go out for dinner because it's cheaper to go out for dinner than to buy groceries. So it's a pretty good life. My business grew a lot in Bali as well, just because of, I think what they say is true. Like, what do they say? You are the average of the 5 people that you surround yourself with. The saying is more eloquent than that, but that is true, because I can look back at these times in my life where I was doing so much growing, and it all happened when I was surrounded by other people who were like fostering that growth and encouraging that growth. So now we're at about 18, where I'm like settled back down in Bali. I've got a house, I adopt the 2 dogs while I'm there, who now live with me in Canada, and I'm still getting clients pretty consistently. but at the time my rates were super low. I think I was charging like $1,500 or $2,000 for like an 8-week branding project, which is very low. And it was actually at the very beginning of 2020 when I started working with my first ever mentor. And that's where things really started to shift, or that was like kind of the catalyst, because I saw the results take place about 6 months later. And 2020, like literally when the pandemic in March was like blowing up, I came home to Canada thinking that I would just be back here for a month or two, let things settle down, then go back and be with my partner and my dogs in Bali. But we all know what happened. So that is the story of how I got my business started and off the ground. This is editing Chelsea here, and this video got way too long. So please come back for part 2, where I'm gonna talk all about what happened once I actually got back to Canada and how things progressed in my business from there. Thank you guys so much for being here, and I'd love to hear from you in the comments down below if there's anything that you would like me to cover in future content. Okay,